It is really an honor to stand here and share what is there in my heart. It's about perfect love cast out fear. So I'll start with this scripture, Isaiah 51, verse 12 and 13. My word is divided into three phases. There's a first phase that we see what blocks us from experiencing the perfect love. And what I have here to speak about is fear. Everybody agree that fear, any kind of fear that may be, is a major cause for a distraction from the focus of God. So can we have that word? Yeah, there it is. So it says, even I, am he who comforts you. Who are you that you should be afraid of a man who will die, and of the son of a man who will be made like grass? What it's telling here is many a times in our life, that fear which enters in our heart, and once it's in, we start focusing more about the fear, the things around the fear, instead of the one who created us, that is our God, our Jesus, the one who can bring us out of it. Our focus is totally lost from there and gone into, focusing on how do we come out of that situation. So there are some points that I have for you. Fear basically makes us forget our Maker. The first thing it does, it just disconnects us from there. The fear makes you fear mankind more, who is about to perish. The mankind who is so weak, who is going to end someday. His life is going to come to an end someday. For example, in my case, I used to fear my boss a lot. Because I was, from the age 15, I took care of myself. So there was no parent to boss over me and all. So only next person I saw in my life who could boss me was my boss. And it was very difficult because I came with great hopes. I was working back home in India. I was very comfortable working in multinational company, drawing enough salary. Situation was cool, no extra work, no extra efforts. What I know I can do that and get the money, at the end of the month. When I came here, it was totally a different experience of how the bosses are. I mean, he's a British. I've seen many British. I've handled them over the phone because I was working for a multinational call center, BPO. It was UK based. So all the clients who would call in the call center were from UK. And this boss, and these people from UK would be so polite, so gentle, because at that moment, it was their need they were calling for. Here, it's my need that I'm working for. So the story was different. So he was bossing like he would use the bad words every now and then. Not directly to me, but it would be like every moment the bad words will be, every two statements, the third one would be having that bad word in between. And it was like, God, really? This is what I came to here? Nobody could dare say to me that in India. It was that mindset. But here, I cannot do anything. And that was the biggest fear I faced. In other cases, like, you can fear your colleagues, dominating colleagues, trying to, prove themselves, their point. Colleagues in schools, colleges, workplaces. You can fear friends at times. You have kind of mistakenly got into a misunderstanding. Could be a trouble for you. You can fear your relatives. Don't want to utter that name, which is very commonly said, mother-in-laws. But no, it's not the case in my family. I'm just taking an example. Many times, mother-in-law, father-in-law, in-laws, basically, can be a cause of fear. Our brothers, our sisters, our father, mother sometimes can be very dominating. So all that kind of fear just pressurizes us to focus on the situation more than the one who can take us out from it. That is our God alone. Well, in the next phase that I enter is, what do we do with it? How do we come out of fear? I talked a lot about fear. Now, how do we come out of it? The simplest way is to understand this. Fear creates a vacuum which is empty now. That place is empty. And the only way you can have this place filled is the fatherly love involved in it, intervened in it. And that is what I'm going to focus on. The next phase is about the love of our Father, the best way to come out of the fear situation. We'll go to the scripture, 1 John verse 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. Now we will just read till here. Perfect love casts out fear. The later part I will share it in detail in the next phase. So the perfect love casts out fear. Scripture proves it. I mean, that's the only way. And who can give us the perfect love? The one who created us, the one who is our maker. That is Jesus himself. In Message Bible, it really puts it in a very simple way. There is no fear in love, but perfect, in brackets, complete or full-grown love can only cure the fear. The expectation of fear is basically asking judgment from God. When you are in a fear situation, you are more into focus of what has gone wrong. Now something will happen wrong because something has gone wrong. So you're expecting wrong for wrong. You're asking a judgment to be passed. That's what been the whole Old Testament talking about. You do wrong, be ready for the consequence. That's how it's going to be. There is no escape from that. You break the law, you are into the judgment mode. So what that causes is there is no space now. Once you have already fallen into the trap of fearing more, concentrating on the fear situation, you are now passing your own judgments on yourself. Okay, now this fear will definitely take me to the next level of facing the judgment, which could be, losing a job in workplace, or losing a friend, or getting into fight with relatives, or making a more mess out of whatever the mess is already. So things like that really can, put you into bigger situations, bigger circumstances. The only way we can overcome is through His perfect love. Whenever there is a situation where you have caught up yourself into the fear, what also happens with it is you look very weak in the situation. You have no control over it. You have no idea how to work out things for you. What he says is in 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, and he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Wow, that really blew me as I was saying. When you have this fear circumstance, when you feel that you are weak, you're in the weakest position, what he says is, my God, that's the best time. That is when I can prove myself, I can show myself strong, Because what happens is now, when you are in a situation like this, you have no control in your hands. You don't control anymore. You are now giving the driving seat, the lead to the Lord. There is only one way. You have to hand over the control to the Lord. And that's the best person who can bring you out of the situation. Coming back to the second scripture that I said, 1 John 4:18. Now we're entering the third phase, which is the final one, the most important one. As we always have read, perfect love casts out fear. How do we now have that perfect love established to cast out the fear? We have always read, when we receive love, we can overcome. We can finish we can fill the gap, the vacuum that has created due to the fear. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. Let's read further now. Because fear involves torment, but he who fears has not been made perfect in love. Let's read the next verse. We love him because he first loved us. If someone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, how can he love a God whom he has not seen? Now, perfect love casts out fear. We said we need to have that perfect love from God to cast out fear. But that's not where it ends. Fear doesn't get cast out as soon as you receive the love. What do you do with the love? Matters now. That is the package. Because what it says further in verse 20 is if you do not give what you received, basically, you do not give the love that you have received, show to your neighbor, it is not a complete verse. It has not fulfilled this. What happens many a times, what I'm trying to say is, we receive love, we are happy, we are very blessed, but we're not sharing it. We're not showing it as a light. What are we doing with it is what matters. The way you can do things is show your neighbor. Now you count who all is your neighbor. Starting with your own family first. They are first your neighbor. Because this is talking about individual, a person. And the next person, who is your wife or your kids or your brother or your sister or your parents, is your first neighbor. So are you serving them? Are you sharing that love, what you have received? Are you respecting them? Or are you just puffed up with the message that you have from the Lord, which glorifies everything, proves everything right? No, I mean, if that is not accomplished, if we haven't respected or served one another with that love that we have received, we have lost the whole concept. We are still going back to the first stage where we never got out actually out of fear. We may have a trap set for us again to fall into the same situation, getting into fear. So I think the struggle mostly that we face in our life is we receive, we keep it to us. We receive and we keep it to us. We come out of that situation, as we keep it to us, we create another trap to fall into that situation again. And the best way I've seen, being here, standing here, I have realized, being part of services with Jensen, I've realized there is so much. What I could see in my life, I could put it to work is, I could help my leaders and pastors to whatever things I can do in the church, whatever things. I already seen in my family, I'm doing a lot and things like that. I can do better. But, there had to be some loop in my heart, There is more. It requires more. There is somewhere I can do more. Because it is not like once you do something for your neighbor, one neighbor, and you forget. It is a constant process. It doesn't end with one. It goes on. This is your lifestyle you have to live with. It doesn't end there. So if you have done behaved great and shown a lot of good love, and served one person, it doesn't end there. It goes on. So same way, I realized, and I started, whatever I could do, wherever I could seek an opportunity, I started involving. I think that's the best way. You just be open for what you see. You don't wait for somebody to tell you. You just see if there is some help required in your ministry or in your people around you, your workplace especially. Yeah, one thing. At workplace, how do you talk? When you talk, does it cause an impression of judgment? Or it depresses that person? If somewhere you are in charge of something and you're trying to pass on an instruction, how do you do that? That applies to me first because I had a lot of difficulty doing that because I'm dealing with someone who is not very smart. Happens. You have to handle people and they wait for instructions. Even if there is a lunch break, you may have to, no, lunch break you don't have to tell, lunch breaks are taken on time. But any work-related thing, even though the instructions are given 10 times, when the time comes for executing the instructions, you still have to remind them. It's a very monotonous thing because you have to remember your role and reminding them that. But I realized that the way I was putting on across to them was not right. Maybe it was like straight up, there was no affection, no serving attitude, kind of. It is just demanding, this is my role, this is your role, you're supposed to do this, so I can do this. Why would he help then? I think if we start practicing this with a serving attitude, everywhere, every place that you go, be it a home, be it a college, be it a office place, if you have that mind of serving, the attitude of serving, I'm sure, things will, one day we will have, everybody with a testimony that will only talk about how good it has been for us. We will not talk about how difficult the life has been, but we will only be able to share about how good the life has been as we did what God willed us to do. I wanted to close with my testimony as well. A quick, short 5 minutes. I'll time myself. Um, 2 years back, this situation began. I was doing excellent in my sales. Nobody was able to be even close to my figures. But as soon as the workplace started seeing easy things happening, they don't have to get much involved with me. I was handling all my sales process and everything was met, targets were met, overachieved and stuff like that. What happened later is they started neglecting. In fact, this should not happen. When an employee does overachieves, you get bonuses, you get credits, you get recognized and stuff. With me, it was going other way around because there was a partnership issue going on with my company. There was a third partner who had joined then, and he was causing a lot of trouble. So the boss's concentration is gone away from employees to managing the business at a higher level, management level. So I had a situation where there is nobody recognizing me. Nobody's bothered to what I'm doing good. Then I realized, I got into a trap of this. I said, why am I wasting my time with these guys? Let's not grow the business. Let's leave it where it is. But sales doesn't survive like that. Sooner or later, as soon as I decided, I will serve and I will deliver only what I am asked for. I will not do the extra mile and get new businesses. The business started dropping. Dubai branch started taking over. I served in Abu Dhabi, so Dubai branch started taking over, and they were excelling. Sooner or later, that started showing up because figures are going down. It is noticeable easily why the business is going down and stuff. By the time I realized, it's not going to survive like this. Business was at the verge of closing down now. The branch for that particular brand was about to close down in Abu Dhabi. My boss got into a new product line and he brought some changes in the management and things were really looking very hopeful now. And he realized, he heard me one-on-one and tried to understand what was the situation. And he had a realization himself that there was a lack from the management as well. That's why the business is, main reason why the business has gone down, as they've been not doing what they were meant to do. So all that was very great. So the new product came in. I'm excited. I'm now trying to push to sell. The management adjustments have happened. Now I'm reporting to someone else. Everything is going right. But the pressure increased on me, saying that what will happen to the employees whom they have already hired to look after. My job is to get the sales, and the other guys who help me to execute it. What will happen to them if I don't meet the business in this much period? So this is the amount they need to make sure that they keep earning through me so that 5 or 6 employees under me can survive. I said, come on, you don't ask me for their salaries to be managed. I'm going to do sales. That's not an encouraging thing for me. You can't burden me, my shoulders, to help them, help my management to pay their salaries. He simply closed by saying this, that if we don't do that, we don't need you, we don't need those 6 people. I can do my business with the whatever remaining I have. So I can close this division and I don't need any help. All that kept going. I literally, got into a fear mode and I didn't know what to do. At that moment, as he's blabbering in that one-to-one meeting, I happened to say to God that Lord, I don't know. I'm going to commit that I will put my papers down. By June end, if I don't get that figure that he expects, it's like a burden to him. He kept saying, I will be out. If you take me to India, no problem. If you get me a new job, that's your choice. But I have no choice but to say this. So in that fear, I happen to say that if I don't deliver by June, this figure, I will drop my papers. I will be done with my job. He was shocked to hear. He didn't expect that. And neither did I to say that. When I came out, because I'm talking Sandy, what did I say? I mean, it's a trouble. I've put myself into a situation. See, this is what fear does, You just, in haste. He was not expecting that answer. That's why when he heard this from me, he suddenly got into a shock. I said, I'm not. He's trying to put to me that he doesn't mean that I leave the job, because he doesn't want to close the division. He's just wanting to tell me what will happen. But I, with a pressure mind, I just gave that. But that made me go to my knees and say, God, 3 months only. It's impossible. We are on like a figure of 12 or 13,000 a month, and we have to do a figure of 5 times of it. It's impossible. It's impossible. I mean, never happened in past also. Even though our business was like in millions, it never happened in such a short time. 3 months, impossible. And the commitment was, I should touch a figure by June end. I should start giving that figure. I don't have to cover the backlog. I just have to start showing that figure that every month from June onwards, this will be the sales figure, benefits. End of June, forget about end of June. In the end of May, the business boosted like anything. And it not only helped me show that figure, it overachieved that figure for that month and all the past months and further 3 more months. So I'm done for my target in 9 to 10 months ahead. So I'm not only I have delivered on what he asked for that particular period, but I have overachieved 3 times more than I should have. So it's like the only reason what I went back and started looking is when I started sharing what I have. I mean, I have received from God. What you do with it, keep it to where it was. So what you do with your gifts that you have received, the love that you have received from the Lord matters the most. And the only thing I've learned is share with your family first, more than what you can. If you see you have done enough, that's when you start doing more. And then your neighbors, your friends, your family, your extended family, your church mates, everywhere, wherever you can be, start getting into the serving attitude. It's like that preacher had preached. When you put, I don't remember who exactly, but I remember that he preached, when you start giving Lord the first place, he will give you in this world the first place. He will start putting you on the first places, here. So you do what he's doing, and his doing is more of what I just shared. Get out of fear, fill your hearts with love. Don't sit there, start serving.